Dr. Khoo, let's start off with this. What you're about to tell us, okay? Is regards to your first son, okay? Question for you. This is something that I always, I don't know. Tell me whether you all agree, boys and girls, and everything else in between, okay? There's this thing called mom's sixth sense.
Yeah.
Very good. Do you all agree? Put up your hands. How many of you agree that mom somehow knows that that is the sotong one? The one cannot make it blur like sotong. Mom knows best? Okay. Dr. Khoo, may I ask you a question, dear? Were there any telltale signs that your son is gay?
Okay lah, I have to admit, I think I just don't have a sixth sense. So I did not suspect anything. My eldest son first came out to me when he was 15. One evening, I was lying down in bed reading a book. His father was out of town.
Yeah.
He had a friend who had come with him. He had brought his best friend from school.
Yeah.
My son was in an all-boys school. And this friend of his, I knew, was a really lovely boy. And so he walks into my room. This is at night. I'm reading my book. And he walks into my room and he says, "Mama, I'm gay."
That is direct as you can get. 4-letter word, finish it off. The thing was, I have a story here. I printed it out.
Yeah.
I studied and then dreamed about it yesterday night. Who was this so-called very good friend from the school?
It was his classmates that he had known since they were in primary 4, I think.
So, do you think that he was there for a purpose?
I think he was there for backup.
I guess that's what kind of
Give
backup?
him moral support.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, definitely. Give him moral support.
Right.
In case I freaked out or something.
Okay. So the 4-letter word came out, not that 4-letter word. Mama, I'm gay. What was the first reaction that hit you?
Okay, another blur moment for mother, okay? My first reaction was, is he testing me? Is it some crazy project from school where they go and tell their parents I'm gay and then see what the parents' reaction is? Because he was in GEP, the education, and they do all kinds of projects. So my first reaction was, is this some kind of project he's doing and then he's just testing me? And then, after a little bit, I thought, that would be the craziest project for anybody to do, right? So, I thought, no, cannot be. So, after that, actually after he announced to me, I said, oh, and then he went back to his room. And so then, after I had thought through for like a couple of minutes about my first reaction, I thought, okay, I better go to his room. So I went to his room, I sat on his bed, and then I said, how can you be so sure? You're only 15 years old. I think you better just be friends with everybody lah, and then I thought, you better don't tell your father.
Yeah, that's what you wrote in your story, right? But in the other part of your story was written that you said that I had my suspicions. In what sense, sweetheart?
Suspicions only for, much later in the sense that after he told me, I started thinking, never bring any girls home.
Okay.
All his best friends are his classmates,
right?
Boys. After that, when I started thinking back about it, but I honestly have to say that I really didn't have a mother's sixth sense kind of thing.
Okay, I think you have to.
It's also a little bit like, I guess what Julian shared just now. He's my son, I love him. You don't sit down and say, are you gay? You don't ask your son that.
Yeah. But there was something interesting. You were saying that, are you sure You sure? Why as a mom would you say that?
Well, I guess it's, to me, I mean, at that stage, I just thought, how would he know at the age of 15, right? So, just to be, and then of course, my first reaction was, also all this world of thoughts in my head, this is going to be really hard, it's going to be tough for him. Obviously, I know that people have prejudices, and so this is really going to be tough. So, if there's the slightest chance that actually he may just be a phase that he's going through, so must at least try right? So that's right. Yeah.
So I think a lot of parents tend to think of it that way, that it's just a phrase, like pimple, you go out of it, but that's not the case, isn't it? There's something interesting. Then the last part with this conversation after you came into the room, you said maybe we shouldn't tell your papa. Why?
Okay.
If you want to say it, if you don't want to say it, I can censor myself.
So his father, so let me clarify, we're divorced now, okay? But at that time, his father had shared with me his reaction about a gay friend of his in university. Yeah. And he would say things to me, and I knew this gay friend also, not that well, but I knew who he was.
Right.
And he would say things like, this gay friend used to try to come on to me. I didn't say that. No, but I'm just sharing this. And he used to tell me that. And then he would say things like, it's such a shame, he wasted his life being very active in all these gay causes. And then he contracted AIDS and he died. So you can imagine, I thought, oh my God, this is what he's going to think about my son, or our son. So that's why I told myself, okay, better don't tell him first.
Better to hold it off. Typically, I think. Does that happen to a lot of people? Mom knows first, dad will know 10,000 years later. Typically, that's it. Agree? Or no, not necessary. Or some of you is the opposite. Here's what's interesting. You said that at that point, the internet wasn't very high-tech like now, so it was difficult to find information, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what did you do?
Okay. So the next thing I thought I should do is go and try and find information. And I thought, okay, I better go to the library and no internet, right? So go to the library. And I work at NUS, and I went to the NUS library. So I went to the NUS library, and then I was thinking about borrowing some books. And then I thought, if I borrow the books, at that time, they will write your name in the book. Okay.
Yeah, there's your CSI record.
And so I thought, now if I go and borrow this book, people are going to see, why is she interested in this issue?
Yeah.
And then either they're not, obviously not going to suspect that I'm gay myself, right? So they are probably going to suspect that I have some.
Yeah.
So I didn't dare to borrow. Yeah. I didn't dare to borrow.
Right. So just to correct me, so there were books available.
Yes.
It's just that it was like under lock and key. They must put on IC number. So scary, but tracking on. But you did write a story that I wanted to share. You said that you bought a book in Northampton, Massachusetts, one of the most accepting places in the world for LGBT people. How did that came about?
Okay. So the background is I am a graduate from a women's university, which is Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts. So it is a very extremely gay-friendly town. There are lots of LGBT people who live there. And so of course you can walk into any bookstore and buy any books you want. So when I visited, I went and bought some books. And so the books I was actually looking for was more for parents. So I found this book
Always my child.
Always My Child. Yeah,
Kevin
written
Jones.
by the parents who had started the group called P-Flag. There's parents and friends of lesbian and gay people. And read about how they supported their children. So that was very important to me.
Yeah, that was
Because it helped me open things up.
For yourself, when you were there, of course the entire context is so different in Singapore, isn't it? When you walk into that bookstore, did you have that? Before you walked in, or was just walk in just like you walk in a supermarket?
No, I didn't feel any sort of fear or embarrassment or anything. No, because the town itself is so accepting. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, the town is
Very good. Let me ask you a question. When this kind of thing comes up, when a son comes up to you saying that, "Mom, I'm gay," okay? As a parent, do you have this feeling that there will be no grandchild?
Actually, no, that did not occur to me. So maybe I'm unusual. My first reaction, as I said just now, was he's gonna have a really rough time. He's gonna have a tough life because there will be prejudice against him. That was my first thought. I really didn't think about the grandchildren. Of course, then after that, later when the implication sunk in, of course, then okay lah, grandchildren. Hey, but you know, things have moved on now that maybe not in Singapore lah, but elsewhere, it is possible that they might, if he finds that, gets married, he can to another guy, they can adopt. They can either adopt or they can do, IVF and have someone bear a child for them, whatever. There's so many, there are so many different ways if they want to have children.
Sure. So the grandchild option is still there. At least now the context is a little bit better. But at that time, as a parent, you probably sort of knew that this is it.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. Were you in some way disappointed?
I guess not really, because again, maybe I'm not typical parent lah, but I don't have children so that I can have grandchildren. I have children because, okay, they give me joy. But I also, when they grow up, it's their life, So the important thing to me is that my son be happy and in whatever he chooses to do.
Right.
And it's not his role to make me happy.
That's very well done. That's it. Yeah. This is what I call also applause. I think I begin, right? There's this last part I wanted to find out from you. You said that you're very worried about Ming, which is your eldest son, his future going to be like, because you know the extent of homophobia in Singapore as well as Malaysia. Homophobia in what sense?
I guess homophobia I think in the sense of people, he might get discriminated against. Although, you actually can get discriminated against as long as you look slightly different. So, and we shall share the story of, he came back, he went to university in the US, and he came back one summer, and he had dyed his hair with a streak of red in the middle. And so before he came back, he had written to his school, and his school had said he could go back and do some relief teaching.
Right.
So he walked into his school with this red streak in his hair, and immediately they told him, cannot. Either you go and dye it black, or else cannot come and do relief teaching.
Right.
So I mean, that's the kind of society, unfortunately, that we have. So I just wanted to share that, as it's not just homophobia. I think it's also a phobia of anybody who looks slightly different.
Yeah. Here very much I think happens in Asia. It's you must confine with what's normal. The moment you step out of that boundary, you're treated as an alien. which makes it quite difficult, isn't it? Understandable. Yeah, so we end this part of the story. Okay, thank you so much. Actually, that was a teaser. It's not the end of the story. Star Wars Episode 2 has begun. Share with me a little bit about, I understand from the story, okay, your second son was like Prince William or Prince Harry, whichever you prefer. Lots and lots of girls, right? And some were so crazy, they were like, kneel down, marry me, buy me. Okay, oh, you watch what's the movie? Twilight, in that kind of sense. So, for your second son, were there any telltale signs?
No. Again, maybe I'm just another blur. Was just as blur with my second son. So, but he was very active in drama, acting, and so forth. And again, at that time when he was very active in drama, he was in boys' school. And you know, in Singapore, boys' schools, when you have plays and there are female characters, you cannot have boys acting as female characters. You always bring girls from another girls' school.
Right.
So he would have these girls, that he got to know through the drama society. And then he would tell me, they actually would call him and talk to him at night, whisper. I can hear him whispering.
Oh my God, so romantic.
And then he did bring a couple of them home.
Yeah. And there was a special.
Yeah, there was this special
boy.
They are very pretty, and all that. So I just assumed, must be maybe girlfriend, right? So I did not suspect anything.
Right. So I would put it as your second son was straight as an arrow. Right? And what happened when he was 15?
Okay, so there was 1 year
we were
when
traveling
together as a family, and we went into a bookstore in Vancouver, and there was a section with literature about gay people and all that. So he was there with his brother, and they bought some books, and then when we came home, he was reading, and his father saw him reading the book, and then the father confronted him and said, "Why are you reading these books?" And then your brother trying to convert you, is it? So I didn't think twice about it. I just assumed that he was buying the books and reading the books because his brother is gay. So he's trying to understand his brother. Then the father then came to me after that. After I confronted him, he came to me and he said, "You better go and talk to your second son. I think his brother is trying to convert him." So I went to see him. Also, I went to his bedroom and I sat down next to him and I said, "Is there something you want to tell me? Your father said this." And then he said, "Oh, Mama, I'm also gay."
So that's what I mean by Star Wars Episode 2. But before that, he actually played the straight card beautifully, isn't it? So there was no way of telling it is. But the fact that the eldest brother brought some books for him to read could come from a perspective that it's perfectly normal. Why? Because my younger brother wants to know me better, right? And what was your reaction again when the 4 words came out?
So my reaction was, but you told me about this girl calling you, and then he said, I was just trying to mislead you. Because I thought, Coco is gay, I'm also gay, then it's very hard for you. So he basically said, I was just trying to mislead you.
But that was very, very kind and so sweet of him as the second son to think of it. That scenario, that coming out, I would call it that scene, was in his bedroom, was it correct? Yeah. And as he said all this up, did he cry? No.
Actually, he was getting quite emotional. Okay.
And yourself, that point, that feeling?
I think at that so I said, my response was, well, don't worry, because when he said to me, I was trying to mislead you because I thought it would be very hard for you to listen. So then I said, no, don't worry. My concern is really that you are able to look after yourself, lead a happy life, and but there will obviously, you may face difficulties outside.
And in your story, you also wrote that your second son eventually left his previous school and went on to an international school where things were much better. He was sort of happy and all that stuff. So once that come out story was true, does your husband know?
Yes.
At that point.
Well, I went back into the bedroom and told him.
and
because how to hide another one, right? So first one already hide enough, so second one how to hide. So
serious? Second one you couldn't hide it for another 10,000 years.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, how did the father react?
Actually, though, his reaction was, what are the chances of this? 1 in a million or something, two sons being gay.
Yep.
And of course, at that time, I didn't know how to respond. But after now, I know more. I realized that actually the chances are actually quite high.
Really?
Yes. To have, two siblings who are gay. Yeah.
Okay. But when he said that, how did you feel?
I think at that time I thought, well, they're still our sons. They are lovely people. It hasn't really changed anything. They're still two young men who care very much about, and they study hard. They care about what they're trying to do and so forth. So to me, that was my reaction. Yeah.
Right. And when you get that second round of coming out story, were you doubly disappointed? No grandson again!
No.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
The two boys are now overseas, right? And are happily working, and the other one is still studying? Or?
No, both are working.
Both are working already. So there will be much, we wish them all the best and all that stuff. So as a mom, what would you like to share with the audience about your story?
I think
the moral of the story.
There's really no moral. For me, it's just that they are my sons. What's important is that they be happy, they go on to do things that to me are important. They're both working in areas where I think they're contributing to making the world a better place. One of them works for a volunteer organization that the National Center for Lesbian Rights. So I like to boast about my gay feminist son.
Seriously, wow, that's a good one.
Yeah, and then the other son works for a spiritual health center where he runs training for people who go out and help people. I think it's mainly sort of like in hospitals when people are not well, you go there and you give encouragement and so forth. So he works with people like that.
Okay. Your sons are overseas, so would you wish for one day for them to come back?
They're both very happy there. They've both found wonderful partners. who both call me auntie, so that's very nice. And they're happy there, so I don't think that, it's something that I would wish for them to come back.
Okay, so this is it on your side. So thank you so much for the lovely story. And I would say thank you very much for being such an open-minded mom, because it's one in a million. Very hard to find.
And there are others.
And I think your story resonates with me because I don't know how you feel, but I think that if a parent doesn't accept the child as for he or who she is, you will find that you have a son that comes home that is not home, because there will be a lot of things he or she will never be able to share with you. So having a parent like that certainly helps very, very much. And the last thing I think I want to add on is that usually I find that the men take it harder to accept that the son is gay. I think that it could be the, what do you call that, the male chauvinistic, no offense. But I always say that the son comes from where? It comes from a mixture of swimmer and egg. Without the swimmer, the egg